What is going on, Degen Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the Colonial, right? What's it called now? The Schwab Colonial?
Charles Schwab Challenge, Kenny.
There we go. Whatever the hell it's called. I know it's in Texas. I know it's at Colonial Country Club. That's all you need to know. As usual, I am here with my partner in crime, Tyler Tamboline, fresh off another six-figure win last week, and it's the round one showdown GPP, taking down $125,000. Mr. Tyler Tamboline, how are you this week?
I'm doing well, Kenny. I appreciate the nice intro and good gesture. And I love that you said, like, that's all you need to know, when later in this very podcast, you'll have a complete breakdown in detail of the course. So it's one that we've seen before, of course, but I love that. Yeah, good weekend, man. It was round two showdown on Friday. Cam Young, my boy for life. Cameron Young came through. I needed him to get the bogey-free round. It was like an 85K swing going into that putt. And he missed the green. So there was already that stress. And certain apps said he was in the bunker. And I was like, oh, God, he's just got to get this thing. And those bunkers have been playing tough. But then I go and see it on the broadcast that the app had it wrong. He was actually in the thick rough, which was still worrisome. Sure enough, he puts it to 4 feet, 5 feet, ends up tapping it in from there. Felt very happy with that. Very grateful. Another big win. So, yeah, it's been a good year so far on PGA. Hopefully we can keep it rolling. The main slate wasn't bad. I made money. It just didn't convert completely. I cashed my mega. I had a good week all around. Lots of good stuff. But the main thing about that, because we're on Mayo Media Network, you guys haven't, hit the like button for us. We're going to have a contest. We finally got it laid out. We'll get to it here in a little bit. But we did the show, Kenny. The round two show is free over on the Mayo Media Network. Talked all about it. Everyone talked all week about the weather edge. I don't care what you think now. The weather edge definitely worked on Friday for me. I played just PM, guys. We talked about it on the show. Came through in the clutch at the end. It was definitely a solid start to the weekend. Great week overall.
Yeah, I mean, going into the back nine, I had two lineups inside the top 50 in two different large GPPs, the $5 drive to green and the dollar short game. And I always back up the dollar short game with a 50-cent entry too. So it's the same lineups, get $1.50 in there. But they both finished outside the top 100, of course, because my final decision Wednesday night was Justin Thomas or Scotty Scheffler. Guess where I went, guys? I went Mr. Scotty Scheffler as my second highest owned. If I had switched that, it would have been like I won in GPPs, but it would have been a big week in GPPs. I lost in cash. That sucked. One and done. Jumped up inside the top 50.
Who'd you have again?
I had Justin Thomas. Thomas in my one and done. That was sort of a hedge since I wasn't playing him in DFS, so that worked out. And also I bet like $20 on JT when he was like 13-1 with like 3-4 holes left or something on the back, just so I can feel something. You know what I'm saying? Like going into the back. And luckily he won. I still lost money because I bet a lot racked. So I won like $280 off that bet. And I bet like $300. So I still lost $20 in the gambling group. But overall, really fun tournament to watch at the end, especially coming down to it. Of course, we'll talk about the Mayo, breakdown at the end. Zalatoris impressed me. Like on 17 and 18, those were two putts he had to make with all the pressure in the world on his shoulders from 8 feet. Both putts were 8 feet. He made both of them. Made that one to get to keep it 5 under and then hope Mito bogeys. And then, I don't know, you want to talk about the Mito situation? I mean, man, that was just heartbreaking, right?
It definitely was. We'll go there in 1 second. Let's stick to Willie Z for a second, because I've obviously dogged the guy. I will say this, and I said it on the Mayo show I recorded earlier that I think will come out after ours, so it is what it is. But just in general, I don't want to say like won me over more, because I talk a lot of shit about the guy, but we've had this conversation. Don't need to rehash it. It's because usually people are betting him at like 20-1. Now people got him at 50 at this major, and I had no problem with that. I said, like, that's fine. But I mean, for me, it wasn't for me, but I'm just saying he definitely proved it. Don't forget about the hole where he had the penalty and then had to get it out of that little crevice on the cart path.
I was sick, dude.
Which I'm not a golf rules guy, but I don't understand when you're already taking the one, like, so if you're on the cart path, you get free relief. But if you're on a 1-stroke penalty, he's already taking his penalty. Why doesn't he still get to then drop it in behind that?
He could have. He could have dropped behind it. But the problem was the bush. He would have no shot. So he had to keep it on the cart path. My guess is the only way he could place it on the cart path without the ball moving because it was on a hill, would be put it in the slot. I don't know exactly the exact situation,
either
why
way,
it was in that crevice. That would be the reasoning why I think that that ball would be, I think, because I mean, I'm sure he had to have dropped the ball twice there. It didn't show the whole thing. When he dropped the ball twice, I'm sure it bounced forward. So he got to place it. I'm almost 100% sure, because he had to drop it on the cart path, right?
It's the only way. You just said it. It didn't show up, but I'm guessing, like you said,
he had to have placed it.
It's the only way he can place it that it'll stay. So of course that makes sense. But imagine hitting that shot, saving, I'll say saving. It was a bogey. That definitely could have been a double or worse based on how it shook out. The 2 putts down the stretch, the absolute emotion that he showed on 18. So I don't even call it became a fan. Like, it just respected it a little bit more. Finally show me something. And then, in the playoff, I made a joke about it. Obviously, it's not science or math. I just said, Luke List beat Willie Z in a playoff. JT back at the Honda beat Luke List trying to get his first win in a playoff. So clearly that meant JT was going to win. Now,
here's the thing. At the end of the tournament, JT looked like a man amongst boys.
Correct.
Right? I mean, like, everybody else was just melting away. And you saw JT. I mean, the thing about it is, I mean, he was like, he was there, but he wasn't. At one point, I think he was 1 under. Mito was 8 under or 9 under. Early in the round, he started gradually going up in the back 9. You saw his name on the bottom of the first page of the leaderboard, like 3 under, and then he came through with the birdie on 13 to get the 4, and then he had the birdie on 17, which was pretty sick. And then he had the birdie putt on 18. He almost could have won in regulation because he had an amazing drive and an amazing approach. It didn't, and then once it was going to a playoff, it would be very difficult for me to believe that he wasn't going to take it down, especially the way everybody else was playing around him, other than Willie Z a little bit with those putts at the end. I mean, those two were the only ones that were coming up clutch at all at the end of the round.
And you said, like, looked like a man amongst boys. I think that's the difference. People could say what they want. I know the Padraig Harrington experience conversation versus innocence. I saw that tweet out there and quotes and stuff. But at the end of the day, experience matters. He was the man amongst boys. I don't care. And from an experience level, look how good these young guys are. Of course, Willie Z, Mito, Cam Young, a stud, not just because he won me money, but after that, like, Rory was already done. You knew where he sat, so he didn't get into the mix. He could have, but the board was just nobody up there. So JT's just loving what he's seeing coming down the stretch. I remember he was shown on the range, asked Colt Knost, Colt, you got a monitor over there? Like, he's just, let me see this. And then it's Willie Z for 8 feet. He has to think, Mito's up next, where that could still mean, like, obviously Mito could blow it, go in the water. It could happen. And it did. We'll go there in 2 seconds. But to my point, that's the only reason it even ended up going to a playoff. So I love that about Willie Z. We'll talk playoff too in just 1 second. You guys know the timestamps are here. We're talking about it. This was a major. Absolutely love it. But what I will say is, Willie Z didn't choke nothing away. I just mean, it definitely matters that he didn't come through on Saturday. He made some mistakes, things like Saturday was definitely a bad round for him. And it just is what it is. But down the stretch and what he needed to do on Sunday, minus the playoff, excellent job by Willie Z. Love to see it. And just, it made me just think a little bit higher of him. I don't know if I still love those 25-1 type numbers that we see, or 30-1 type numbers.
You're going to get that in every non-major.
Yeah. I'm just
every
saying
non-major, and unless the field's elite, he's going to be 25-1.
Yeah, regardless. And that's bad. I don't care what people say. Someone like No Laying Up was talking last night about this guy's the best player not to win a major now. Like, talk about recency bias. I'll call him right out. I don't care. It's like, that's ridiculous. There's so many other players out there that have actually closed out events and won on tour, won FedEx Cup champion, like Cantlay just last year. And I'm not a Cantlay stan. I'm not sticking up for him. I'm just saying the guy has done a lot more and not won a major. So that's to each their own. I don't think Willie Z is the best not to win a major. I think he's very good. He's going to win.
I think current game, he might be the best currently, like, form wise.
I think it's recency bias still, but we can move on. I will say this though, the playoff. So I will thank Willie Z for this, for making that 8-footer, which ended up leading to a playoff. And then we'll get to Mito, because I love the playoff. I actually forgot that it was aggregate, but talk about the way it was set up.
The 3 holes were perfect.
3 holes they picked were the absolute nut. Like, I couldn't have asked for more. The way it was set up, it was, especially for an aggregate style. Yeah. I know that's not for everybody. People prefer the sudden death and the way that it breaks out because how much pressure is there. But the way this setup was fair, like, even on the first hole that they played, like, JT gets it up there, or Willie Z gets it up there 35 feet for eagle.
Yeah.
JT places it up to say, let me have my shot that I want. Plants it to like what, 2-3 feet. And it's like, go ahead, Willie, you make this eagle. I'll shake your hand. We'll move on to the next hole.
And then JT's drive on
17.
One of
that
the
was
greatest
incredible.
drives,
one of the best shots. Yeah.
You know, like when you talk about majors and when you talk about like the final hole or playoffs, one of the better shots you'll see, you know, when it comes down to the nitty gritty of an event, of a major event going down to the last holes. That drive was, I mean, I can't really say too much about it. The 290 yards, plays a cut, lands it softly, lands in the only place you can land it where it's going to stay on the green. I mean, unbelievable shot by Justin Thomas, and he really was a man amongst boys. When he did that club twirl on 17, when he first before the playoff, I was like, oh man, this could be over. He might win without having to go to a playoff. Is what I thought. Yeah, if Willie didn't make that one, but.
The shots in the bag he has, though, we'll stay on him because we'll save Mito for last. But the shots he has in the bag, Kyle Porter tweeted earlier, said, by the way, these were all on Sunday with the Traj, and you could see it, how it was out there. Like, he has every shot in the bag. And I mean, that would be my segue to talk about JT for 2 seconds here, because obviously he's the winner of the tournament. And then we'll talk about the M in Mito stands for meltdown, or does it stand for Molinari? Some people told me today, we'll go there in a second. But JT, the first thing, bones on the bag. Thought that's a, just think about that story. We talked earlier this year about Scotty Scheffler with Ted Scott on the bag. Now you got the situation with JT with bones on the bag, gets that job done. Tiger being like one of his best friends now, his dad being his coach. And you just talk about like, just in general, not just for golf, but for if you play daily fantasy, anything like you guys listen to here, betting, if you can surround yourself with good people and put yourself in the spot that when you're, so far obsessed or into something, passionate about it, or have to play it at a high level like these guys do, it's the key, right? And that's why sometimes you hear the pros talk about it, like the team that guy has around him is so good, he almost can't fail. And you see that so much. Obviously, you get more luxuries and more affordability of those luxuries, the better you play, and the more you win and the more talent you have, the more people want to associate themselves with you. And I think that's in all things in life, but it is so key. And I think that's a big secret to JT's success. So what do you think of that? First of all, talk more about it. And then what do you see for JT beyond this? Like how many more majors do you think he gets? Because some are saying, 2 PGA championships. It's still 2 majors. Can't discount it. But they'll say, like, where's the other ones at?
It's just weird that he hasn't won more.
Yeah.
Like when you look at the game that he had, I mean, especially the way he plays and how he's been playing for this year, other than the putting, I mean, it's weird that he doesn't have more. It's weird. And you think he has 15 wins in his career. It's a lot. That's a lot of wins. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like the way his game is, he could have more out there if his putter was just a little bit better, and he's still young. He has plenty of time to win 6, 8, 10 majors if he wants, if his game keeps up the way it is. I mean, the guy has that much talent. There's no doubt about that.
Do you think he passes Rory in majors? It's tough right now because what is it, 4-2? But what do you think of that situation? Just like I said, the setup could not be better. He is younger. He's got Bones is very happy to be on that bag. I mean, he talked.
Well, I mean, like you said about that, it's important. You have Bones on the bag. You have Ted Scott on Scheffler's bag. I mean, it's an important part.
It definitely matters at that level.
Yeah.
They said, look, you can argue it all you want. I don't care that much. My point is more, they do say it though. They're like, if anybody could save you a stroke or two around anywhere, they talk about it normally at Augusta National Golf Club, but just at any major, it's one of these experienced caddies that have been there, done that, know how to close things out, have seen it all. And they're as invested into this game as their player is. It's just, they don't play. That's not what they do right now.
They want their 10%, man. You know what I'm saying?
Of course they want that too. I mean, that's a big payday for Bones yesterday, coming out of the boot, well, off the course, I guess if you will. But he even said, like, hopefully someday down the road, they'll have a spot for me. And of course they will. But right now, this is the reason he came back, is to play with JT. I see a lot more out of JT, as most will that have watched it. I'm just saying, I don't really care that it's only PGA championships. I think his game translates to any course, anytime. I do think he passes Rory with majors. It's just how long will it take?
Yeah, but here's the thing. The PGA championship lately hasn't been like the PGA championship of old. It's been tough. I know technically it's like the easiest major. But I mean, what was the winning score this past week? 6 under? I mean, it's not like he's out there in birdie fest, going out and winning the PGA. I forget what he won at Quail Hollow, but I figure it wasn't that easy out there. So yeah,
he's a players champion. I mean, he's like, it's
the resume is fine.
He's
going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He's going to win more majors. He's going to try and get the Grand Slam. We'll see how it goes. I know the funny thing is, prior to this win, I don't think he had a top 5 in a major since his win. That was
I don't have that in front of me, but that is interesting.
I think I'm pretty sure about this. Not 100%. You can go check online, but I'm pretty sure I read this somewhere. And he doesn't have a top 5, prior. And that's one of the reasons sort of why I went with Scotty over him. They're both in the poor wave. Scotty's just been playing out of his mind. So I don't think necessarily the Scotty Scheffler play was a bad call on my part over Justin Thomas. Now in hindsight, it was horrible. But it's just what happens. But yeah, kudos to JT. Expect more coming from him. I don't doubt I'm rostering him this week. When he gets hot like that and he's confident, I don't give a fuck if he won 3 in a row. I'll keep
save that because we're gonna go there. That's a great conversation piece when we get to the tiers. Let's talk about Mito. I said it, the normal joke that the M stands for, but the meltdown is the conversation piece. The Molinari factor, like, is this guy done now because of that? The way it shook out. I argued today, Kenny. I didn't argue. I made the point that I actually thought this was way worse than the Molinari situation. Like, Molinari had already won a major champion.
Yeah.
He'd already had a bunch of wins. He
Way
broke
worse.
down earlier in the round. Yes, he did he has not fully recovered from it yet by the looks of it. We don't even know if that's what it is. The point was he already had more going for him. And the list of guys, I called them certified killers, that were chasing down Molinari at Augusta National Golf Course, which is a lot of pressure already with a green jacket on the line, just the monumental event of the year. And it's just, to me, it was totally different. This was like, hit one good shot, hit one good approach, one good tee shot, one good approach, and you probably win this thing going out. Worst case, you're in a playoff with Willie Z and Justin Thomas. Not an ideal spot to be, but if you tell Mito at the start of the week, you're going to have a 1-in-3 shot at the end in an aggregate playoff with Justin Thomas and Willie Z, will you take it? He would, but he just had to get the tee shot down. And a lot of people are arguing like, oh, the driver, this, that, and the other. But first off, on the Molinari piece, like, the kid's 27, won 3 times on the Corn Ferry Tour, has shown up in plenty of PGA Tour events. Is he done already? People ready to write him off. It sounds crazy to ask. Do you think he's done? And then go to the other side.
The one thing I don't like about it is, when he was one of the best players in South America, he quit the game for 2 years. He retired from golf as a teenager. Basically everybody wanted, like Neiman said during his interview, everybody wanted to be Mito. And he gave it up. Now I don't know why he gave it up, but that sort of makes me worry a little bit more. That he's already given the game up once. How much is this really going to affect him mentally? We're going to see it right away. I hope it doesn't at all, because him coming out after that, what happened, talking to Amanda, doing that interview, smiling, laughing. I mean, man, he gained my respect 100% after that. I want him to succeed now, but it's really tough to come back from something like this. I mean, he had it in his grasp. I hope he's young enough that he can get through it and get past it, but I don't know. You never know with these. You saw Molinari after that; he hasn't been the same. I don't think it's going to go that route, but it could. I think this week, hopefully, he comes out and it's over his head. It comes out here this week and competes. If he comes out here, makes a cut, finishes top 10, I don't think we have much to worry about. I think he'll be fine. But we'll have to see about that. The question I had was his caddy on 18. I know that he had been hitting that sort of chicken wing cut, like low stinger drive throughout the whole week. He'd been doing it pretty successfully all week. But the thing is, like, on that hole, if he misses a little with that shot, what's going to happen is it's going to roll in the water. Like he just said. I mean, you just club down 1-3 when you're going to be back. You could still get the water, but you would really have to balloon one, to the right to hit it into the water. If you club down 1, and what's it going to give you? An extra 20 yards, and all you need is a bogey for a playoff, a par. I just thought he didn't think it through, and it looked like he didn't think it through at all, because like right when, he just grabbed his club and teed off. There was like no hesitation, no thinking. Usually that's a good thing, but I figured on that type of hole, you want to talk about it, think about it a little bit. I don't know. I don't think that was the right decision, but hindsight's 2020. He had been hitting it well all day. He just didn't need it at that point in time. Just hit a cut 3 wood. It'll come 30 yards shorter, and you don't have to worry about that. Now, if he ballooned it, with a balloon slice and it goes even farther right, yes, he could still hit the water, but he'd have to really miss hit it. And he didn't miss hit that stinger by that much. So yeah, I mean, it's tough for him.
Yeah, from a club selection, I think the numbers and everything showed out. But like you said, I think that's where it becomes a little bit subjective because people want to look at it like, oh, automatic. It's results oriented if you say you should have switched clubs because it did go in the water. But at the same time, you think about that, like we just talked about the Bones factor, the Ted Scott factor, like what maybe it was use the same club, but get your guy to take a deep breath, talk through what option A, B, and C is right quick. You're the last group. It's a big decision. You can take a few extra seconds there to say, look, if you drop down a club here, Mito, and maybe they didn't, we just don't see it, but
maybe they didn't. Maybe he tried. Maybe he tried.
If we club down here, you're going to be 20 to 30 short. You are bringing bogey into play, so the risk versus reward. So that's where I say go stick with the driver, but take a deep breath, get a good practice swing in, hit your shot that you've been hitting all week. And again, he still has to execute it. The same result could have happened. My point is more like you said, it did look a little bit rushed. That would be the only
I thought
thing.
He was rushing towards the end, especially the back nine. I mean, if you look at it, I think he only had 4 of 10 up and downs for yesterday. He only was good on 4 of 10 up and downs, but the 4 were like the first 4 he had.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And after that, he just couldn't get it up and down again. And I think a lot of that had to do with nerves, which is expected. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the guy's 27 years old, never been in this type of situations, never won before on the PGA Tour. The nerves are expected. So, I mean,
and he said that after the round, not to cut you off, but he did say, look, he said,
and then he was 1 inch. He was 1 inch from having a 2-shot lead going into that final hole.
Yeah. He said, I had a lot of nerves today. JT talked when he won about how he had these similar nerves going into it. So he knew it was a possibility. But look, he came out, like you said, smiling. He did the interview. He seemed to be in great spirits for what had just happened. Maybe he lets it out a different way later. But like even Willie Z in his interview, he was still choked up, tears again. I mean, obviously he's a guy that's just lost in another playoff now, and he just wants to get that monkey off his back and can't. But I mean, at least they both did the interview. Rory didn't do an interview, for example. And on top of that, Mito, like you said, the way he talked
Tiger
about
didn't either.
Tiger didn't come back Sunday, but either way, the point would be too, like you said, the nerves. If you got, I mean, if you're going to shit your pants and you got to find a washroom, you start running. He was already starting to shit his pants down the stretch. So maybe that's why he hit the drive so quickly. It's like, I just got to get through this hole and win this thing or lose it. Whatever happens, happens. And in the end, he lost it. So it's
I'm really interested to see how he's going to do this week.
He might even take a chance on him this week, man. I think you react one of two ways. And I don't see any middle result here. I think he either comes out with a vengeance, and that could be Willie Z. We're going to talk about both of them here shortly, but either way, or the other way is obviously you just completely suck this week and mail it in, and we'll see if he ever returns. And then we have to listen to everybody that said he's never going to come back from it. See, I told you the very next week he didn't play well. So
I mean, what this reminded me of, basically, I mean, it's not like Norman 6-stroke lead. I mean, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like Van de Velde, who was up by like 3 or 4 going into the last hole. For that happening. It's more like DJ, like 3-putting, Chambers Bay. It sort of reminded me of Brandon Grace hitting at OB on 17, the year Brooks won it when he was a stroke back. So that's what it reminds me of.
It's so hard to quantify because it's like DJ, he's not a DJ. Mind you, people, compare him and compare Cameron Young to sort of a look like DJ, but they don't have.
It's probably like a Brandon Grace.
It was close to that. The only difference is he wasn't, again, like that, even though he was back one. It's like what you needed to do was this, and you didn't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
and the drive cost him just like Grace did when he hit it OB.
Put it into the train station or whatever there. So
So I think that's what it's similar for. And Grace has come back. He's won a couple of times since then.
Yeah.
So hopefully that happens to Mito.
I definitely think he wins. I don't know if it'll be a major, mind you. This might have been it's a really good chance at a major, but it's also early in his major career. So we'll see a lot out of him moving forward. Let's move on.
Okay, let's go over to Listen League. Tampa, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, we got Chef Burns back-to-back. Sorry, not back-to-back. Second-time winner, I should say. He'd love back-to-back. Maybe he goes back-to-back this week for a third win. But Chef Burns ran it out, Kenny. He had Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, and Willie Z up top. And then down low, Cameron Young, Davis Riley, and Mito Pereira. So a very nice lineup. Different at the top. Played some of the guys that were popular in down below. And then, Davis Riley was completely off the board at 4%. But I love that. I said all week, talked about him at 6,800, that he reminded me of like playing Xander before Xander was 9K at these majors. You play a guy at 6,800 and just take the risk. And he didn't completely crush like Mito did or Cam Young did. But at 6,800, he still put up 65.5 DraftKings points. So overall, Chef Burns put up 482 to take down the Listener League. What are your thoughts on the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, really solid. I mean, having the JT, Willie Z, Cam Young, Pereira. I mean, that's great. I had multiple Willie Z, Cam Young, Pereira lineups, but they were all with Rory. So yeah, that sucked. With Rory, so that one hurt a little bit. But yeah, great lineup. I mean, Riley was great. He's someone that I like. The guy's just been playing really good golf. I mean, for a while. I mean, he's just been playing excellent, and the rest. I mean, pretty chalky, right? I mean, Willie
Yeah.
Z,
You
Cam
needed the
Young,
chalk this week.
yeah,
I saw the stat
JT,
today.
yeah.
I think it was what do I want to say? 5 of the top 8 guys were like super chalk or whatever, or top scorers. It was just a big number overall of the chalk that came through, but that happens sometimes. And you got to, use a guy like Riley or Chris Kirk or someone like that to get a little bit off the board. Harmon and Kirk were examples of, and even Riley against Noren, who got really popular as the week went on. I regret it some myself. I definitely used some Alexander Noren, but yeah, overall a solid lineup, different at the top with JT and Xander. And Xander T13 very quietly, not special, but T13. It wasn't like he was completely out of it. You need those grinders over the weekend at these tougher tournaments, like we knew this one would play. So he's already in the Tournament of Champions, Chef Burns, that is, for another win. We'll see him in the 3-man for this week. And congrats. Hopefully you had the lineup in other places, because definitely scored well for the week.
All right, it sounds good. Congrats.
Last thing. No, I don't think we'll have a listener league this week. I'll announce that now just so people catch on. If we do, I'll put it out. It'd be great. If we don't, hopefully back for next week, trying to get an inside track on that. The gentleman that used to do it for us, so he's no longer there, but we'll get back to you guys on it as soon as we have it. We've got a contest coming before we get into the tiers.
All right, sounds good. Let's talk about the course.
Yeah,
for this week, the PGA Championship, the PGA goes back to Texas this week for the Charles Schwab Challenge. This is going to be an invitational type tournament with around 120 golfers. So you're looking at only about 55 golfers being cut, with the top 65 in ties, instead of the normal 80 or so, 80 to 90 you would see in a normal event. The course seems to favor experienced golfers. I mean, since 2001, the winners of the event have averaged around 7 appearances at Colonial before their victory. Only 8 golfers in 70 years have gotten their maiden victory here. So 5 years ago, Spieth was the youngest winner at Colonial since 2001. The year before, Chris Kirk won. He had just turned 30, and then Berger was like 27 when he won a couple of years ago. The youth movement has taken over the winner's circle here, 3 of the last 7 years, but every other golfer that has won here between 2002 and 2021 was above 31 years old. So the old guys definitely live this week on this type of course. Weather, always a big factor in Texas, of course. The winning score here has fluctuated between -9 and -21 the last decade. The biggest reason, of course, is going to be Mother Nature. Taking a glance at the forecast, it looks like it's going to be comfortable temperature-wise for the first 2 rounds with a little bit of rain, nothing crazy. But then you get to the weekend, it's going to be very, very hot, and with gusts 40 miles per hour or plus is what I'm seeing for Saturday and Sunday. So, a little bit, and you take into account thunderstorms in the forecast Tuesday and Wednesday. I expect the first 2 rounds to play a lot easier than the weekend rounds. If the wind forecast is correct, I'd also expect the winning score to maybe just be, double digits under par, low double digits under par, especially if that wind kicks up to 40 plus on the weekend. If it's not that windy, it'll be a little bit more easier to score. So it's definitely weather based when it comes down to it. So Colonial Country Club, 7,200 yard par 70, very similar to what the par 70 with 4 par 3s, only 2 par 5s. The par 5 first hole reachable in 2 by most golfers, and if the fairways are playing firm, the par 5 11th could be reachable by longer hitters, as golfers will need to take advantage of a rollout. Now, I don't know how much rollout they're going to get with the rain they have on Wednesday and Thursday, but as the week progresses, you'll see more rollout by the weekend. There aren't too many eagles at Colonial, but these 2 par 5s are still the easiest holes on the course. Now, overall, though, these 2 par 5s are some of the hardest on tour. So I would focus my attention more on par 4 scoring instead of par 5 scoring this week. Off the tee, golfers are going to see tight tree line fairways with bunkers in play on most tee shots, and water a factor on a few holes. Usually the Bermuda rough isn't too high, but it is wiry and has a penchant for grabbing golf balls and sinking them to the bottom of the grass. In other words, the majority of golf balls hitting the rough won't be, fluffed up or anything like we've seen in some of the courses this past year. Bad lies in the rough here, basically the norm. Now it is possible. Now there is a possibility that the rough could be a little bit higher and thicker than we have seen in the past due to rain on Tuesday and Wednesday. So pay attention to the Golf Channel. We'll see how thick the rough is. If the rough is flush and taller than normal, give accurate drivers of the golf ball a bit of a bump up. And we'll see that as the week goes on. This is definitely a thinking man's course. It favors more precision than length. There are many dog legs, making it much harder to just bomb drives out there. Golfers are going to need to hit, certain spots to have clear approaches to the green. This leads to many leaving their driver in the bag on a lot of tee shots, though. Golfers like Jon Rahm and others have gone against this trend the last few years. They've hit a lot more driver. And Rahm, pretty solid finishes here in 2017, 2018. Hitting a lot of driver. Now, with the course possibly being soft the first couple of rounds and younger golfers being a bit more aggressive off the tee overall in general, it's possible we see more drivers than what we've seen here in the past. But for the majority of the people playing, it's going to be a less than driver course. Now, on approach shots, golfers will see small greens with a bit of undulation. Bunkers are very prevalent around the greens, and they're normally set up in front of the putting surface. These bunkers are going to catch slightly missed approaches, and we'll see a lot of work on holes where there is a headwind. The greens use bent grass should be fairly quick with a stimp meter reading around 12, but the stimp could be dropped a bit during the weekend if we're going to see 40, 50 mile per hour winds. With the rain in the forecast every day leading up to the event, to Tuesday and Wednesday, we might see greens being receptive in the early rounds, so they should firm up over the weekend. Also, with high temps during the weekend, the greens could be watered, making them soft and receptive during the weekend as well. We'll see. They tend to water greens here often because of the heat. So that can keep the greens receptive the whole week. If they don't, the weekend's going to play really, really hard. Of course, well known for the 3-hole stretch, the horrible horseshoe, 3 to 5, hole 3, long par 4, big right to left dog leg, bunkers and trees on their tee shots, really small green. Tough hole. The 4th hole is a 250 plus yard par 3 elevated green, really, really tough. This is the only par 3 on the course without a hole in one in tournament play. And it can be really difficult in headwind. It's 250 plus. With a headwind, you could be hitting 3-wood on that hole if they put it on the back tees. And then of course, the 5th hole, always a tough hole as well. I think in the last 35 years of tournament play, these 3 holes have played 8,000 strokes over par, while the other 15 holes have played a combined 800 or so under par. Those 3 courses, those 3. You're not going to win it in the beginning, but you can lose a tournament on those 3 holes early, very, very easily. What are you looking for in golf this week, Tampa?
Yeah, just to drop the plug real quick here on the Mayo Media Network. I think everything you just said, Kenny, lines up to keep a little bit of money behind if you can for Showdown this week. There's definitely going to be some opportunities on that. We got the free shows on the Mayo Media Network. So just the way you're talking, like receptive greens in the morning, potential wind advantages, like not for the week, forget all the conversation from last week. We're not going to go there, but just in general, it does seem like it'd be a good opportunity. So I think that's interesting. Always a factor, like you said, in Texas with the weather. And then stats wise, it's pretty straight up. The par 4s are just so important, right? There's so many of them. The lengths are shorter. Like that's been a thing in the past, always has been. Definitely a course history course. So we'll look at some of that. We'll talk Jordan Spieth here shortly, where that becomes a factor. And then just going through the rest of it. Tee to green in general, bogey avoidance. The around the green game, a lot of talk about this. I think it makes sense. It gets mitigated a little bit because the fact that, it's going to be similar for everyone and tough. So maybe it's easier for a guy like a Hovland or someone like that they can find some of those strokes around there. And we talked a little bit about that last week. And I think, Kenny, jumping ahead here with the ranges and stuff, I got the stats up though. I think Hovland actually gained just slightly around the green, at least later in the round. So round 4, it's at he was in the mix there. So he might've lost overall, but a lot of missed putts for Hovland last week. I thought that could be something. We'll get there. But other than that, nothing else special, man. Like you said, set it up in the fairway where you want. Guys are going to do that and then be able to have your approach shot in. Hitting greens is key. Everything's standard stuff. It's obviously whoever hits fairways and greens putts well, that's who wins a tournament. But it's a course we know a lot about. I think that's going to be the bigger difference.
Yeah, bogey avoidance. You're going to see a lot of approaches from 150 to 175. A lot of the par 4s are 400, 450. So you can look at those numbers as well. All right, before we get into these tiers, let's go ahead and pay these bills.
All right, guys, this one's big. So listen up. From tee to green, get in on all the golf action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, new customers who place their first wager on this weekend's golf tournament of $5 or more will receive a free bet equal to the amount you wagered if your first bet loses up to $1,000. That's $1,000. Just because you aren't out on the course doesn't mean you can't have your shot at a big payday. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still drive for show, putt for dough with DraftKings daily fantasy contests. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes this week. How huge? Millions with a capital M huge. It's easy to play. You just pick 6 golfers, stay under the salary cap, and submit your lineup before the tournament tees off on Thursday. So don't miss out on all the action this week at DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Use promo code FGD at sign-up, and new customers can place their first bet of $5 or more on the tournament. And if your bet loses, you'll get a risk-free bet back up to $1,000. That's code FGD at DraftKings Sportsbook.
All right, so let's take a look at these tiers. Let's go in this 10K range. I think we got Hovland all the way up to Mr. Scheffler. Who are you going with this week, brother?
Yeah, I'm going to go a couple guys here, at least to start it off. So first off, I just mentioned Hovland earlier. I think this is where it gets interesting. The big thing for me is obviously that Spieth is going to be incredibly popular. If you look at his course history, it's a home game for him, which everybody knows. And sometimes that affects guys. It does not affect Jordan Spieth here. What might, though, is coming off a week where you did not complete your career, I can't talk, Grand Slam, but your buddy Justin Thomas goes out and gets the job done and wins it for himself. So not the career Grand Slam, the tournament, of course, the PGA Championship. But I don't think he's that guy. We'd have to wait and see. But I just think there's going to be a lot of ownership. Like I could easily see him 20 to 25% here in this range. And you've got so many other guys. You mentioned it earlier, Kenny. I definitely think it's interesting to start the day. I liked Scheffler, I liked Morikawa, and I liked Hovland. But a couple of things that you brought up. One is with Justin Thomas. I remember if you go back, he's definitely won back-to-back on tour before. It was in Hawaii, not the same, but he's had pretty good results after his wins, right? Doesn't always mean a win, but if some of these other guys don't get there around him, I think he's an interesting option. But I do like Morikawa. I do like Hovland. And then do you think Willie Z will be super low owned coming out of that playoff, or do you think people just stick with him and say he's motivated, he wants to go out and get a win, he's the guy to play here and is quote unquote sneaky until he's not? What are your thoughts on Willie Z?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the lowest owned guy is going to be Scheffler. Do you agree or no? What do you think?
I thought Morikawa.
Okay, well, I like Kawa a lot, so I hope that happens. But yeah, I'm not an ownership guru. I suck at that shit. I mean, like, I have no idea.
Or maybe JT.
Right,
I mean, I'm like you. We'll figure it out. That's why I love the sites so that have it at the end of the week. But JT and Kawa, like JT off the win is usually something people don't go to at a high price tag. It's not just JT. People off a win at a high price tag, and you've got Scotty, who people might forgive off of a miscut, bad wave, etc. You can make a story for it. Jordan Spieth, obviously heavily owned. And then, I don't know, Hovland could be low owned. People don't like that. I don't know where people are going to go here. And I don't think it's enough to care besides knowing that Spieth is going to be extremely high owned. So make your picks with that in mind.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to let ownership affect my decisions this week up top. I'm going to play Justin Thomas, Morikawa, and GPPs. The games just seem to work well for this course again. I mean, it's basically last week, but not on steroids and a couple of 100 yards less. Mm-hmm. Basically is what it comes down to. So yeah, I think Kawa hopefully is low owned. I hope you're right, JT. I got no problem going back to the well on him. But my first cash game cornerstone is going to be Jordan Spieth. Yeah. I mean, the guy just course history is, I don't know, like top 10 every time he plays here. It's ridiculous. And the thing is, like, his ball striking has been so incredibly sick here recently that hopefully his putting, has been so horrific that it comes back on a course that he's extremely comfortable on. That's my thinking on this. I mean, in the last 3 weeks, I mean, he's gained what? Last week at the Byron, he's gained 7 strokes ball striking. The week before at the 8th Byron Nelson, he gained 10.1 strokes ball striking. At Heritage, which he won, he gained what? 9.1 strokes ball striking. I mean, his ball striking has just been insane. If the putting comes through, I mean, he even lost 2.5 strokes at the Heritage putting, and he won. Give me like -1 or better putting, strokes gained putting, and then keep doing what he's doing ball striking. He can win. I bet him 12 to 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. You can get better numbers. but I went ahead and just used DraftKings. That's my place to go to. And it should be your place to go to too, since they sponsor and pay us. So go ahead on DraftKings Sportsbook. I went ahead and took the 12-1 for Spieth on that. Let's move on to this 9K range. My second cash game cornerstone is going to be Abe Answer. Really strong finish last week. Coming into top 10. If you look at his numbers, I think he's gained something like total narrative here, but he gained like 4.6 strokes with his approaches. If you look at the last couple of times, he's gained 4.5 strokes or more, and then played the following week. He gained 5.2 strokes in the 2021 U.S. Open, just 2 rounds. He missed a cut, but he finished 4th at the Travelers, gained 7.5 at Wells Fargo that same year. Finished 8th at the PGA Championship the following week. I know there's more down here. Gained 11.8 strokes with his approaches at the Heritage in 2020. Finished 11th at the Travelers. Gained 4.7 strokes with his approach at the Charles Schwab in 2020. And next time he went out at the Heritage, he came in 2nd. So he can get hot and stay hot with those irons and does well. He has pretty good course history here. Also, so I like Abe as my second cash game cornerstone. Other guys in this range, I like Tony. I'll play a little Tony Finau at that price. Cheap guy, makes all his cuts here. It looks like his game is sort of flattened out a little bit after being, on a downward spiral. He's made 5 or 6 cuts in a row. I think he has a whole heap of top 25s here. Going with the course history. So I like Tony as well. Who do you like?
Yeah, one guy we'll have to wait and see. And obviously there could be more WDs as the week goes on. There's already been some. I know Bubba with the torn meniscus, Sepp Straka, a couple of guys already, bailed on this tournament, and we'll wait and see what happens, right? With everybody else, the field is still pretty strong though overall, but I want to see with Sungjae, right? Sungjae, the only reason he couldn't play last week was based on him. I guess he contracted COVID,
right?
Tested positive for COVID, whatever it might be overseas, and he was not able to get over. But I mean, he's been playing pretty well. I think it was 21st at the RBC Heritage. He was good at the Masters. He, to me, fits this course at 9,200. So I think he's good. And I think people oftentimes are a little bit worried off a withdrawal or off of something like that, but there's no reason to be worried. Like, he would have been there if he could have just been allowed to fly out and play. So it's not an injury. It's nothing like that. So, you could say he's rusty, if you will, but not really. I would still be fine with him. I like that. I like your Tony call.
I like the in-play. I'm going to add him, definitely.
Yeah, and Berger, who down at the bottom, 9K, could pick up some steam here, but Berger looks pretty good to me from stats perspective. You just think about him at, sort of courses that set up well. And then we always say this about Berger. Same thing, I wanted to say last week was strong. Last week was a major. It's such a strong field. This is a strong field, but it's not the strongest. Like, he can still find his way through this at a 9K price tag. So I think he's kind of interesting as well at the bottom. Up top, I was debating back and forth. Probably have to wait and see, but like Burns, Homa, those are 2 guys as well that you could pivot off of that answer range that actually win, right? They go out and get the job done. Obviously, Abe got his WGC last year, but Burns has 3 wins, Homa 3 wins. Like, these guys are picking up wins now like crazy. So if you want to play some guys based on pure talent and winning upside, I definitely think it's there in the upper 9K range. I will say this, Kenny, the 10K and above is much more appetizing. Even though you've got that win equity with those 2 dudes there with Burns and Homa, obviously those guys that are at the bottom, I still think the upper range is a little bit better. And also, we didn't talk about this, but 120 man event this week for the challenge, if you will. And I think, obviously that leans to being able to play a little bit more like a stars and scrubs, if you will, or something along those lines. So I don't hate just going away from this 9K range completely in some lineups this week.
All right, that sounds good. Let's go to this 8K range. My final play, and I think he's going to win, Tommy Fleetwood. I know he's never won. I know he hasn't won on tour. I know people think that he's been having like a poor season or not that great of a year, but in 10 PGA Tour events this year, 7 top 25s, top 22s in 10 events on the PGA Tour this year. That's not bad. Okay. 3 top 10s in 10 events. That's not bad. The guy's been playing exceptional. Last week, tee to green gained almost 13 strokes total last week. Everything was lined up. I mean, it's like the first time, I guess, he's actually had a couple of times, twice in his last 4 measured events. he's gained strokes in every single strokes gain category. I think it's, and then he shot -3 to jump into the top 5 last week at the PGA Championship. I did like him a lot last week. We talked about that. I like him a lot this week. I'll bet him at 40-1. And I like Tommy Fleetwood, one of my favorite plays on the board. I know I might be burning money, but he will be one of my highest owned golfers in the field without a doubt. Other than that, I like down below Kevin Na. We'll go Kevin Na, former winner, $8,100. Pretty strong showing, top 25. And of course, a lot of people thought he couldn't really contend because it was too long. Though we talked about that length was sort of dodgy when you actually look at the course. But, similar type course, former winner here, thinking man's game, old man's course. Kevin Na around the greens. If the wind blows, give me Na. I don't mind him. I like him a lot at 8,100. Who do you like?
Yeah, before I do my 8K range here, just want to announce the contest. So we talked earlier about it. We hinted at it's a good spot to do it because it's going to be very simple. You're going to go on to the YouTube video. You're going to click the like button and you're going to put your fade for the tournament that's $8,000 or above. So it'll be a name that everybody knows, that that anybody you're talking about, your fade of the week. You're putting it in the comments on YouTube. We're going to utilize that. And then for some bonus points, some bonus entry points, if you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, you go on there, leave a review, 5-star rating, that's going to get you into the draw as well. We are going to give away at least one, maybe two. We'll see how it plays out, but at least $100 Millie Maker ticket. They dropped the contest today on DraftKings for the US Open, just 3 weeks away. We are going to give away at least one, if not two $100 Millie Maker tickets for that. And it'll be based on this. We're going to take the entries out of people that actually commented, supported, went on and left the reviews, things like that for bonus points. So if you guys can do that, this is the spot. $8,000 or above, fade of the week. Who's going to miss the cut? Whatever you want to put it or call it. Just someone you think is going to be a horrible play at $8,000 or above. Kenny, I've got this 8K range. So obviously Watson, don't use him. He withdrew today, but he's in there at 8,000. But I like Kevin Na, who you were on there. Even him and Kokrak at the bottom. Above that, I like Horschel, Davis Riley. Just, those are two guys I'll always play in this range. And I think, like I said, if you do a guy up top, skip the 9K range and go into here, that's why I'm going a little heavier. I'm okay with it. Fleetwood, not as high on him as you, but the Mito situation is interesting because you got to think nobody plays Mito, right? We talked about it. Maybe not a bad club selection on 18, maybe just a bad decision, like how fast he went with it and everything. We already went through all that, but do you think people will play Mito at all here at 8,600 this week?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I single digit own probably would be my guess.
Yeah. And so my thoughts is like that. Like it won't take much to get overweight. Like if he's 7%, you could play 15% and have double the field and be good in that sense and get leverage that way. So to each their own. If you go stats though, like this is my whole point, Kenny. This is the situation I think through it. You can't just call a guy Molinari. Like we already hit on that. Don't need to beat a dead horse. The point is, if he wins the PGA Championship and decides to play this week, or let's say it the other way, let's say he's the Brandon Grace, just makes a mistake down the stretch. He wasn't supposed, everyone's got in their mind like he was supposed to win. He wasn't. He had to close and go get the job done. He didn't. And that's golf. It happens. But my point is more of if it didn't end the way it did, if he won, obviously then people don't usually play a winner the week after. But if he was just in the mix, like a nice finish on Sunday, top 3, a lot of people would be in on Mito on this course with these stats, with this setup in this spot. The minute he blew it the way he did, he's like the worst play of the week. And I just don't know if that's true. He did the interview. He was smiling. He was laughing. Maybe he's okay with it. Maybe he comes back with a vengeance, like I said, and goes out and has himself a pretty good week. So I'll definitely pay to find out at 8,600 with Mito. Not my favorite play in the range, but definitely think he's interesting. I like Na, Kokrak, Horschel a bit more, even Davis Riley, but he's in that mix of those 5 guys for me.
All right, that sounds good. Let's get to the 7K range. One of my favorite GPP plays up top. It's going to be Gary Woodland. I bet him at 50-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. He's been sort of boom or bust, but it's been pretty good. I mean, if you look at his last 10 finishes on tour, you got miscut, 5th, miscut, 21st, 8th, miscut, 24th, miscut, 34th. So you're getting a lot of boom bust, top 25 miscut. And at this price, that's okay. I mean, give me, and he has pretty good course history here with a couple of top finishes here in the last couple of years. Again, less than driver course is what we like Gary in. And then I got my 2 cash game cornerstones up top. First, it's going to be Sebastian Munoz. What's he at? 7,700. You look at him in Texas. In Texas, had a 10th at Trinity Forest. He was 9th at TPC San Antonio, 3rd at Colonial last year, 3rd at Craig Ranch a couple weeks ago. The guy just loves Texas. He makes a lot of cuts. So I'll go back on that Texas narrative for him for that one. And I like Brian Harmon, who just makes every single cut at this event that he's ever played. He's been making mad cuts on tour. That's what I'm looking for. Really, really good. When it comes down to, hold on, let me look here. I got everything right. Really good on the, hold on, where are we at? Still have some vision issues. There we go. Good on those shorter par fours, 400, 450. Good on par fours in general. Bogey avoidance, everything's there. So give me a little bit of Harmon. So my 4 cash game cornerstones this week, they're going to be Jordan Spieth at 10-4, Abe Answer, and I think it was 9-4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 9-3. 9-3. Munoz at 77 and Harmon at 78. So that's going to leave you, I think, 14-8 to finish out the rest of your lineup this week. One other guy I like here up top, probably going to be, I'll play a little Bezuidenhout. Strong short game, strong from 150 to 175. Really good on the par 4 stats that I'm looking for. I'll play a little Bezuidenhout. Who do you like up top?
Yeah, one of the things I'll say right quick, because I like a lot of these guys, but I think so does everybody else. At least, it'll get spaced out, but I just want to use this example because it's so fresh in everyone's mind. I know it stings for some, myself included. Alex Noren last week, like a guy like Chris Kirk is 7,900. He looks very good in the betting markets. He looks very good in top 20. He looks great on Fantasy National on the stats. And I should have said that earlier. If you guys don't know, this show is brought to you and presented by DraftKings. We had the offer earlier, way late on this one today because we got too excited off the top, but also our friends at fantasynational.com, fantasynational.com/FGD, get yourself 20% off the first month. But Kenny, this guy looks so good in everything you look at, Chris Kirk. And I know you like Woodland and Harmon, and these could end up being great GPP pivots. I also think sometimes it's just good to overlook the range and build a little bit differently. But Kirk stands out. HV3 stands out. Harmon stands out. I actually like your Munoz call. And then the other guys a little bit further down for me, Tom Hoagie and CT Pan. Their stats all still roll out quite nicely. So look, not all these guys.
I mean, if there's a heritage comp, I mean, CT Pan, right? I mean, that works for me too. Yeah, Hoagie's nice.
There is a heritage comp. I mean, there's a few more guys because HV3 even just came 3rd there. He was in the mix, if you remember. So, I mean, there's definitely something you can roll with there. I just think in general, Stewie Sink later when we get to it as well. But a lot of guys that would make sense. We talked a little bit about that today. I was on the Mayo show with them doing his before he goes away for the week. There's going to be no Wednesday live show chat. But, it's not the same. But when you think about sort of the idea, at least from a mental aspect of what you need to do there, it's tree like you got to set yourself up proper off the tee, find the shot in that you want, smaller greens, a little bit of a comparison there. But I think, just in general to think like that makes sense to me. And then there's guys that have actually played well there recently that are also in this field. But HV3, just going back to him, CT Pan, even these guys have been playing good golf anyway. So I don't have any problem going to them. I think Mav McNeely gets a little bit of love here, of course, and rightfully so at just 7,500. What are your thoughts? 7,400 down to 7K. Ricky Fowler leads us off. Finally had a decent showing. I know he chipped in like 3 times, but at a major last week, that was a good result for Ricky and a solid Sunday nonetheless.
Yeah, I like JJ Spahn at 71. When it comes to the model, he's above average in basically everything. Has that win already. Confidence is up. I like JJ at 7,100. Stuart Sink makes sense. I could see him with the RBC Heritage. He's been playing pretty good. I know he's only made like 8 or 15 cuts this year, but I think he's made like something like 4 or 5 in a row. So the game's sort of been coming together here recently. Lucas Herbert, 130-1 and $7,100, who was in contention last week, for the majority of the event until probably Sunday. I could go on that, see if he could bring that momentum through this week with low ownership and 130-1. I got no problem with that. The one guy, what are you going to do with Griot? I know his course history here is amazing, but he's playing so bad. Do you any interest?
Not for me, no.
Yeah,
like I said, I think that one thing is like the course history is one factor, and he's just like doing okay. But I think there's just way too many other guys in this range to even need to consider. You can find good plays that we just talked about that will have depressed ownership. I had this thought. Tell me here. This is a good spot to bring this one up. I'll get your take, but almost like a major hangover. I know this is a strong field. I know this is a good course that people know in a tournament, but the sentiment that I'm feeling out there already early on a Monday, Kenny, is that like people are a little like, that was a lot, right? We just had this big major. A lot of people had sweats if they played the AM, PM, things like that. And a lot of the sites out there that promote content had people have big wins or have situational stuff where people were in the mix for a big sweat. So I do feel like there is a potential this week for people to sort of just play the same guys that everybody says. So I think there's going to be good plays that we've talked about and liked that may end up coming in under owned just because the people listening are like, oh, I'm just going to use the guys he said that he liked the most. And we end up with a lot more congested ownership versus last week, as all majors, we have softer pricing. Everyone wants to play their guy. And then you end up with the ownership completely spread out.
Yeah. I like I said, when it comes to ownership, I'm relying on my peoples to get me that on Wednesday.
No, I'm saying, do you think people care less about this event the week after a major? Almost
you're
like
you're going to have less casuals. The thing is, I mean, I don't know. Like nowadays, I don't put anything past the people that play PGA DFS. Everyone's really sharp nowadays. There's not that many fish. I think there's less fish in golf than any other. I don't know. You play a lot, all the sports. What do you think when it comes down to it? I mean, like,
I try and make it like less that than more situational. I think like you said, less casuals this week because there's not $1 million up top for everything.
Yeah.
I'm talking that I think the quote unquote sharp players that you're mentioning, I think people take it as like a lesser, like a week they don't pay attention to as much. They don't want to go through all the content again. There was content overload last week, things like that too. So a lot of people just start plugging in the same names. And I think we'll see very congested ownership, which I always look at as an edge. So we'll wait and see how it plays out though. Like you said, we'll talk at the end of the show where you can find those ownership projections. But who else do you like? Anybody else in this bottom 7,400 and below besides the guys you mentioned?
I mean, those are my favorites down there. Those are the ones that I'm looking at the most, probably. I know Steve Bamford's big on Trey Merritt, so I mean, listen to Steve. I think he put a bet on him, so I'll probably play him just based on what Bamford said. But other than that, it's mostly the ones that I talked about.
Okay, I like Merritt with him. I know DraftKings has him at 50. You can find him out there at 100. So, like, just in general, I think Merritt's an interesting play at 7,300. Neesmith, though, at the same price, especially if Merritt gets popular based on aforementioned, like the betting stuff, Neesmith is already a good play that I like. It's a heritage comp if you want to go back there again. But we talk about Neesmith, find a fairway, find a green, got to find the putter. But I mean, he's definitely capable, and I like him for that anyway. And then I go and look at today's U.S. Open qualifier, top 13 get a spot. Guy posted a 62 at this event. It'll get talked about as the week goes on. Maybe he ends up a little more popular. I'm just saying, if they all get to 12%, to me, I don't care. You're able to get leverage on whoever you want. I like a guy that can do that, and I already liked him for the course here. It seems like his game is in form. It's one day, one event, but it feels good to get that weight off your back and maybe plays a little bit freely going into this week. So I think he's interesting. Kevin Kisner, always at these types of courses, take the risk at that price. I got no problem with it. KH Lee, I think that's still a fine call. Nate Lashley, JJ Spawn, some of the other guys that you mentioned there that I have interest in. Other than that, though, Kenny, not too much. Maybe Aaron Rye based on talent. Just going back to like the Davis Riley, by the way, earlier got the price bump to 8,400. Aaron Rye, definitely don't think he's a Davis Riley, but at the same time, I think he's talented. And at 7,200, I think he definitely goes overlooked. So he's a guy down here as well that I'd be interested in.
Yeah, I could definitely get behind Kisner. I'm down with that. Let's move on to the 6K range. I mean, one guy, boom or bust here recently, probably Adam Long at 6,900. I mean, you look at his finishes, 15, 12, 35, miscut, 46. So, he's been doing that boomer busting here recently. I don't mind him at $6,900. I'll also play a little bit of Russell Knox again at 69. It seems like his type of course, sort of bunted off, sort of strategic thinking man's type of course, like a heritage. So I'll go with a little bit of Russell Knox. Steven Yeager seems to be playing pretty good golf when it comes to numbers wise, at least here recently in the last, couple of months. I think he might gain some popularity when it comes down to just because of his like 12 and 24 months, 12 and 24 round splits are so strong compared to basically everyone else in the 6K range. I know Sabatini has pretty good course history here. I like Lucas Glover. Just spitballing names because the 6K section is always so long. But yeah, I'll go with Sabs. I like Glover, who's finished well here, had a pretty solid finish last week, under the radar finish at the PGA Championship. Yeah, so I mean, those are the main guys up top. If you want to go low, like I said, this is top only 120 people playing, and top 65 and ties are still in it. So if you want to go like super low, I mean, Brent Stedeker never makes a cut here, but he's playing like ass. I don't know if I want to make that move, but you could if you're a course history guy out there. Kramer Hickok has had some success here. He's had a few weeks ago, he was in a final group, almost winning an event at $6,200. I can get on board with him. I mean, Adam Schenk at the bare minimum. I mean, the guy's talented. And at 6K, you could do worse. What about you?
Yeah, I brought up Schenk today too. I thought that was interesting, just at even 6,000. I don't think, again, you're taking a punt for sure. Who was the guy you mentioned before that? I actually liked what you said. Oh, Hickok, right?
Yep. Hickok 62.
Yeah, I just want to see something real quick because I actually like that play as well. I just want to mark him before I forget because Andrew Putnam is there as well. Treated us pretty well in the past, but I do like the Hickok call for sure. A couple other guys I like. So going back to the top, I'm with you on Knox. I think that's a good play here. I think Long feels like he'll pick up a little bit of steam just because on Fantasy National, he definitely rates out well. And I think that was the first guy that me and Mayo talked about where I was like, he could be sneaky. He's like, no, because I liked him too. He making fun of himself. But I do think that's always something to think about. McCarthy and Gim, Poston, those three sort of stand out to me as probably actual talents that are fair at their price. The ones that I want to take a risk on here, I got to think three of them. First off, Alex Smalley, Corn Ferry Tour graduate, has had some good events throughout the season. Definitely could pop at a course like this. Sahith Theegala, we'd think the opposite. Doesn't really feel like the course for him. But listen, when we go back to the RBC Heritage, not him, but Cam Davis and Cam Young, remember they were cruising along at the RBC Heritage. People were like, there was no way they would show up here. The talent these days is just different. And I think that the same with Theegala at that price tag, 6,500. I'm just going to play him. And then the last two for me, Kenny, Mark Hubbard at 6,400, extremely boom bust. I'll take the shot. And then Nick Taylor, the guy I think will pick up a little steam here, and I like him for sure, is Austin Smotherman. But he's the last guy I was going to say for you. What do you think about Smotherman at 6,300? That seems really cheap for a guy striking the ball as well as he does.
Yeah, I mean, his iron game's really, really strong. Tee to green, he's very, very good. Probably one of the best, in the 6K range. So yeah, I got no problem with Smotherman at 6,300.
And last one, I'll give you one more. Kitayama, 6,400.
Okay.
You like him?
I haven't really looked too deep into him, so I can't give you an answer yet.
Okay, well, we'll start him up for now, but I just want to see. Okay.
All right. So anybody else?
I don't think so, man. I think for now, that's good anyway. Like you named a bunch, but definitely gave you the ones that were higher on as of right now. So mix and match, keep an eye on stuff as the week goes on. But I do like a lot of the guys that we talked about there quite a bit as of now.
All right, that sounds good. Betting card. I'll go ahead first. I got Spieth 12-1, Fleetwood 40-1, Answer 40-1, Woodland 50-1, Herbert 130-1. I'll probably add a couple more bombs out there as the week progresses.
Yeah, mine is always the same. It's a card that I loved going into the day, and then as I start hearing things and seeing things and looking things up, it looks like they're going to be very popular, all of them. But Answer and Berger, both at 35. Really like Berger. Like I said, I just think sometimes in these events he can just pop through. Obviously a former champion, but just in general, I think it's like a spot that you'd want to play him. And the field is stronger, but it's not super strong. It's not a major, so I'm not as worried about that. Kirk at 55, Troy Merritt at 100. And then Neesmith at 125 and Smotherman at 175. All guys that we talked about. That's my 6, but I think that's good for here. And then one and done. You talked about it earlier. I'll let you go last. I got crushed last week. I saved up Mr. Scotty Scheffler. Didn't play him a bunch in daily fantasy, so I thought maybe it's a good spot to pull him just in case. I thought for sure he'd at least battle through the wind, weather, etc. Did not. Absolutely crushed me. It sucks to waste Scotty after all the wins he's got this season. For this week, I'm interested, though. I'm sticking with Berger. I talked about him in the betting card. I'll go back to him, and I'll go with him here as well and use him in one and done also.
Yeah, I like hold on. I'm going to go Fleetwood or Answer. That's where I'm going this week. I got two one and done teams. I am in 37th place in the carbon contest one and done. The funny thing is, listen to all the people that missed the cut. So I have 6 golfers that have missed the cut. That I've played in this league in the carbon contest, and I'm still 37th. Will Zalatoris, MC at the Byron Nelson. Russell Henley, MC at the Heritage. Colin Morikawa, MC at the Players. Dustin Johnson, MC at Genesis. Sung Jae, MC at the Honda. I got all these studs missing the cut, and I'm still in 37th place in that league. So I'll probably go Answer in that one, and maybe Fleetwood in the Mayo Cup one. So
two things quick on one and done. Just a testament to one and done, how you're never out of it, because the players, and we talked about this in our season preview show of this, which a lot of things have been going well with that show, surprisingly, because I had to go back last week and listen to it before the major. It's been actually pretty solid so far, the takes that we had on there. But the other factor is like the players we talked about on there, how valuable that would be with such a big top prize. Imagine if Cowell won that, where you'd be sitting right now.
Oh yeah,
like, you got a miscut in the highest prize pool of the year, basically.
Yeah.
And then secondly, guys, we won't have the one and done segment anymore going forward. Once Kenny gets up there in any of these tournaments, he just can't give you his pick anymore.
I ain't telling y'all shit.
He's going on to win the thing. So, all right, Kenny, let the people know where they can find you for the week.
You can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. You can find me on gupscorner.com. I know Brian Rizzo won the smaller Millie Maker. He is a member. And then the other guy that won the big Millie Maker, like the big pay in Millie Maker, he's actually a member of Gups Corner and Run Pure Sports. So pretty nice. So check out gupscorner.com. My article will be out here shortly on Wednesday. I know the Millie Maker guy, he had Neiman, one of my favorite players, and Fleetwood in that Millie Maker lineup. Two of the guys I was really highest on last week. So, make sure you go check out gupscorner.com. My article, of course, previews out now. Wednesday, I'll add my final betting card, any adjustments to the cash game cornerstones, and my favorite GPP play in each price range, which is where he got Neiman and Fleetwood from. So yeah, check it out. The Gups Corner's been doing really well. Lots of big time winners, couple of Millie guys. So go check out Gups Corner. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on the membership.
And you can find me on runpuresports.com. You mentioned it. We've got promo code DGEN50, DEGEN50. Get yourself 50% off the first month. It's all sports, one price. You'll also get the Wednesday show with myself and Big T, Uncle T, where we actually go through and break down exposures, roster construction, all the stuff that I think people have a hard time with week to week. So definitely check that out. All the other sports, baseball, NBA playoffs, UFC as it happens and plays out. And of course, you do the 1 month right now, you get past the next major. You get the Memorial, the RBC Canadian Open, the US Open, all that stuff that's going on. And then on Twitter, at Toe Tag and Tambo, you guys know what it is there. Going to put out Tambo's tidbits every Wednesday morning, early as I can, get them out there. Top 15 items of the week that I've seen across the free content in the same space that we're in that I like, that I think will be helpful for your lineups, for your bets. You could take all that information, figure it out, put it together however you like. But definitely think that's been helpful for some. All I ask, if you do me a favor, if you don't follow me already, follow me on there, retweet it to others so they can get the information. It really helps me along the road. But that's all for this week, Kenny. That was a great one.
All right, that sounds good. It's Colonial, still a pretty good field. Should be a fun event. Money's always money. So let's win it. Motherfucking, I fucked that whole shit up again. I don't care. Let's win some motherfucking money. T-Jet Nation.
Getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words.